Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Adobo and Avocados. My name is Marie Cruz, and today I have two amazing people with me, starting off with my amazing sidekick.
Hi, that's me. I'm your sidekick. I am Nicole van der Hoeven. I'm happy to be here, and I would like to point out that I'm going to be confused for the whole show because there's Marie over there and Maria over there.
Yeah.
And fun fact, my like Christian name is actually Marianne.
Oh,
So, the three of us Marys here. But
um,
welcome to the show, Maria.
Thank you so much. Very happy
nice.
to be here.
Oh, we're so happy to finally have you on board. I know we've had to reschedule this a few times with our busy schedules, but I'm just glad that we're finally doing it. So I was asking Maria a while ago how to pronounce her last name, and hopefully I'm gonna get it right. Maria Kedemo.
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't attempt it.
But Maria, could you introduce yourself? What do you do and what do you like to do for fun?
My name is Maria. I live in Sweden, in the south of Sweden, and currently we have lots of snow actually. Um, I have my own company called Black Koi Consultant and or Consulting, and I've been a freelancer for about 6 years now. I work in software development, but I would say that I focus on software testing. But there are lots of other things that I focus on as well. Um, I'm not really sure what to tell about myself, but just fill in if you have questions. I mean, for fun, yeah, I'm like, what do I do for fun? But the last time,
Let's not work.
Yeah, last
I
time I
actually went out playing pool with my husband last Friday. That was really fun. Um, but
So,
yeah,
what
I
type of
guess
consulting do you do?
so. It's really a lot of different things. I've been in software development for over 20 years now. Um, and I've had various roles as well. So I do consult in mostly it's about organizational change. Perhaps someone wants to get better at software testing, or someone sees that it's often software testing related, but very rarely it is about it is really about software testing. Sometimes the problem is more people related than we think. So many times people seek out help or just support or coaching in some sort of change management aspect.
Mm. Was it a big transition going from, I guess, like a full-time job and now doing the whole independent consulting? Was that a massive like change, or do you feel that it was just basically the same stuff that you're doing but now you're self-employed?
In terms of the work or the assignments itself, I wouldn't say it was a big change. I was already a consultant when I chose to become a freelancer
Hmm.
or have my own company. So that wasn't a big change at all. I guess it opens up for other type of questions around economy as one thing, taking a big risk on your own and so on. But being an employee is sometimes also risky.
Yeah.
But I guess it was more getting to understand how it is to have your own company, learning all these things around both administrative work, but also like um, what you call like driving or getting exposed as your own company is a bit different than having someone else, in your behind your back.
Yeah. One question that we always like to start with is, so Nicole and I were both from the Philippines, and the title of our show is Adobo and Avocados. So we always ask this question because we love food, it's food related, but adobo is the unofficial national dish of the Philippines. And it could be really be anything, could be pork adobo, chicken adobo, even vegetable adobo, or like something else. But the whole point is it's sort of a way of cooking. You marinate the meat or the veg with garlic, soy sauce, vinegar. So it reminds us of home. So every time we think adobo, it's like we're grounded back where we're from, because Nicole and I, we both live in Europe now, and we haven't been home for such a long time. So, from your perspective, what is your adobo? What is it that reminds you of home? It could be food, it could be not food related.
Wow. I think that's a super interesting question. The thing is, I love food. Like, I love cooking. So maybe actually, when I said that, maybe cooking is kind of something I like to get back to, like being able just to stand in the kitchen, taking my time. But on the other hand, something, because I know you have this topic around the adobo. I was thinking the other day, what is it that like really grounds me and make me feel like home and sort of safe? And I thought of the sea, because the sea is somewhere where I grew up very close to, and I feel very, calm and safe when I'm close to the sea. So that would probably be one thing. Um, but then I guess my family is also another thing that really sort of makes me feel like home. I do travel a bit for work and so on. So I always look really, really forward to come home to the family and people that I feel safe around.
No. That's
There
that's a
really is something very visceral about the sea. I think,
yeah.
not that I never grew up like actually by the sea, but whenever I go for a holiday or something, actually falling asleep being lulled by the sound of the waves is,
Yeah.
there's something very primal about it. It's something very soothing.
Yes, I think I think I could sit and just stare out at, you know, um, yeah, stairs. What do you call it? Like stare out over the
Mhm.
horizon or the sea and everything that's just around there. It's very calming in a way.
Yeah, I miss being at sea as well. Like especially now, I know in Sweden it's very cold. It's also very cold here, and same in the Netherlands, isn't it, Nicole?
It's
So yeah,
snowing. Yeah.
Oh,
It's not
we,
fun.
yeah, we all want to be at the beach right now. But we're curious to know, Maria. So you've said that you've been doing, that you've been in the software development industry for more than 20 years. What was your career background like? Did you study to actually be in tech, or like was it accidental, or yeah, any like stories that you would like to share?
so I mean, it was deliberate, but yet not. So I sort of stumbled into studying informatics. So I guess that's where it became accidental. But from there, my first job was actually a software developer, and that was sort of accidental as well. Um, and it was a short career as a developer, because that site or the organization that I was working for, they had to um, do some cut downs. And I think while I was like searching for something different to do, or just for, I mean, just to get a job, I had a colleague, or a former colleague, who had started off as a software tester, and he just said, "I think you'd like this, so why don't you just apply? We're looking for people." And basically, that's where. I sort of started the career in software testing as a profession. I mean, software testing is something that's part of development. As a developer, we were testing all the time. So, but it was not a specific profession. But so that was, I guess, the switch between being a developer and then having the title software tester.
So you said that being a developer for you was short-lived, but it seems like you really took to testing. What was it about testing that you weren't getting, I guess, that wasn't, that didn't make software development as appealing?
So I think I got, or my interest in software testing started when me and a team lead, a different team lead, we were the ones who sort of helped our teams to integrate our different software components or module in this specific context. And we tried to come up with different scenarios of how to get this to work and how to understand if it didn't work. I don't think we were talking a lot about testing at that time, but it was very test related. So we were the ones looking at the integration scenarios. And from there, I think I picked up on the concept of trying to understand where does our component fit in the complete system. I mean, who's going to use it and how are they going to use it and why and so on. And all these questions was something that I found so much more interesting than developing my very, very small module that I was working on at that time, which was perhaps I could have asked the same questions then, but somehow I didn't. And I think that's where it's kind of, yeah, my interest was awoken or something.
Nice. I think we can jump right into the main topic because like the title of this might be a bit like different from other episodes that we've done, and it's about why people leave software testing. Because I think so both Nicole and I were now developer advocates, but we've also started as software testers. I still love doing testing. I still help the team if there's any like testing related questions, product related questions that I can help them with. But main sort of responsibility in our job, it's the developer advocacy now. So I guess my question is, because I know that you're gonna be like a keynote speaker this year at Eurostar conference. Congratulations, by the way. And I got intrigued because I think your keynote is really gonna be insightful to a lot of people. So why did you leave the software testing industry? Because I think as part of that talk, you're gonna explain why you left. So we're also curious to know from your perspective.
So I think that's something that built up during a long period of time. As you have been software testers before, I think you also have the experience from both the good sides or the fun sides of being into software testing, but also there are some challenging stuff that we need to deal with when it comes to software testing. It could be anything related to either the software that we test our testing and the environment that we need, having the testability and so on. But a lot of it, I think, again, is people related. It's about relationships, a lot about relationships, building relationships, getting questions answered from different people, understanding who to ask, and so on. And as I mentioned before, I work a lot with change management, trying to help find different ways of how to approach testing, trying to introduce new concepts, challenging status quo. And that in itself is something that gives me a lot of energy, but it's also a lot of, it also steals or takes a lot of energy. So you need to find like the right balance. And I just think I was off balance for quite a long time. And that sort of, it just took all the joy away from working within software testing. And I got the opportunity to do something completely different, and I just grabbed it without, you know, asking myself why. I just thought I just need to get out of here, um, and so I did.
The reason that I was asking earlier, like, what was it about testing that clicked for you that didn't click with development, is that for me, I always was interested in tech and computers. I was developing before I was testing. I didn't even know testing was a thing, like most of us. And the reason that I didn't go into development, and my brother is a developer, so like I had a clear path to it, is that I felt like I really wanted to work more with people and not as much with the computers, even though I like both. And I know you were saying earlier that with testing, you talked about how you're actually kind of in a way testing people. It's because it is a lot about people. As a performance testing consultant, I was often the first person that followed a transaction or a request through the entire system. So a lot of times people didn't really know, like, oh yeah, where does it go after it leaves our little component? I guess it goes somewhere, but we don't really talk to that team, or we don't know who's in charge of it. And I'm the one that's like, okay, everyone, let's all get on the same page. Let's all come into the room. Let's map this out. And there's something really energizing about that, right? Like you're bringing people together, you're getting everyone on the same wavelength. But to your point, that can be exhausting because you're the one that they all turn to bring this unity to the team. And you're often new. Like most of my projects, I was there for maybe a few weeks or months, so it was difficult to have to go into a company and just be like, okay, quickly suss everyone out, figure out what everybody wants, figure out what's going to get them to the table. Like it's a lot of pressure, and it's an aspect of testing that people don't really talk about that much. It is not just technical chops. If you wanted to just do, all of the technical things, then you probably wouldn't be a tester, because you do have to be a bit of the glue that brings everyone together, and that's not going to be done through coding.
I think there was one sentence you said, figuring out what everybody wants. And I think that's an essential phrase because, I mean, software is solving someone's problem. So the things that the products we might be working with is there because someone needs it, or maybe they don't even know that they need it. But I also think it's interesting when you put people in there, the people that work with it, everyone assumes, I think that everyone is working, um, I mean, from their perspective of what they think is the best for this product or for the company and so on. But we come from different backgrounds, we have different experience, we have different worldviews and so on. So I think it's very interesting and important to understand what people want, or what drives them, what is their motivation, and what is their worldview to be able to move forward. And I think that could be extremely energizing when you have completely different worldviews where you might be clashing, and then trying to drive change in that could be almost impossible. Um, but there's always this, and I think that's what drives me at least, is that I also enjoy this as much as I can whine about it when I get home. It's this love-hate relationship to what I do.
Yeah. I can relate to that because I think it's all like good if, I guess, everyone is on board with the change that you're gonna propose. And I think with the job that we do, a lot of times it's really trying to change people's mindset, trying to change the process rather than like the small technical like testing parts. Like it's very easy to, let's say if we're gonna talk about like a new test automation tool, it's quite easy to introduce that. But then convincing people why we need that, why it might take some time. Like, I think that's the part where it's energizing, but at the same time, if there's a lot of opposing views, there's a lot of like like limiting beliefs from people, and you still haven't like proved the value to them. I think that's the part where it can really drain your energy, because from our side, we just want like what's gonna be best or what's gonna really work for the project. I think we all want the same goal, but because of everyone's differential mindset, then it can get quite difficult to reach that consensus. But one thing that Nicole mentioned as well is we as testers, we sometimes act like the glue that holds everything, or that holds like everyone together. And this reminded me of the episode that we did last year, like the last episode that we did last year with Vernon Richards about glue work. And I'm also interested to hear your perspective on this, because I think there's some relation as to why people leave software testing. I think it's maybe because it's the amount or the high amount of glue work that people don't really appreciate. Because I think as a software developer, it's quite easy to show your work visibly. It's all with the coding, like a new feature. But there's a lot of glue work that we do as testers that sometimes it's not appreciated, or sometimes it's not really recognized the way that it should be. So, do you think that's also one reason why maybe people leave software testing, is the underappreciation and not being recognized, I guess, the way as other peers are being recognized?
I'm not sure, but I do recognize the not being recognized for glue work. I used to work as a people manager for a department of testers, and one thing that I really fought for or tried to make that company understand was the glue work that the people were doing, the testers were doing, and to expect as well as a tester when you started at this company that your after a while you would be the expert in your team, the expert of that specific product. You would know who to talk to. You know how different areas in that product is connected and so on. So people will come to you to ask all those questions. The developers will ask you about it. So you are in a way a expert, not only on testing, but also on the product and um, the surroundings or the people working with that product. And I think it's very important to understand that that's also part of the work that a tester has. And I don't think a lot of people know that. And it's very, I can understand that it's difficult to see because it's like you say, it's not visible. But I like to try to visualize that work as much as possible, not only for your surroundings, but for yourself, because it can also be difficult when you come home. What did I really do today? I didn't get to do any testing, but what did I do? Oh, right, I talked to this person. I tried to figure out how this works. I needed to check how this tool is used and so on. So there's a lot of things that go into testing that's not actual testing, but is part of the job that we do as testers. So I like either I told my testers to either like do some sort of journal that you could visualize or show, and you could categorize that if you want to, and you can promote that this is the things I do, but it's also about not only writing bug reports. It could be telling the story of what have I tested today, you know, showing your testing notes. But it's really about visualizing the work that you do so that people understand that you do more than just sit with the product and test it.
I also wonder whether there's something about testing itself that makes it more difficult or makes testers more prone to burnout and this feeling of, like you said, having it be exhausting, it sapping your energy. And I think that maybe like testing is such it's a breadth field. So it's knowledge work like development. We are judged based on what we know. But developers are really encouraged to go in detail. So they're a depth kind of field, so I feel like with testing, you have to know a lot of things, but you don't really have to know them well. And so the idea is that we spread out across a variety of disciplines. We need to be good at presenting. We need to be good at convincing. We need to be good at development. We need to be engineers as well. We need to be like, there's so many different aspects to it. And while that can be exciting for people who are that way inclined, it also means that you never feel like you're enough because you're not going to be able to match the depth of any one person in any one of those fields because you're spread out across all of them, and that leads to feelings of like imposter syndrome because you aren't going to you can't be time wise, we just don't have the time to get as good as somebody who specialized in just one of those things. And I don't know if you two have felt that, but I definitely have.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's this I've seen like an image before. I can't remember if it's from LinkedIn or X, but it's like a developer's job and it's just really the typing code, trying to work on a feature, and then the tester, it's just like, yeah, even though we're not like trying to code all day and we're not trying to test all day, but there's also other things where we're getting pulled into. And I think the context switching as well, that can cause a lot of, I guess, stress if you're constantly just getting pulled from like different teams. And I think, yeah, it's just this. I think especially now, because I know as an industry we are trying to move, let's say, from like this modern day testers where the concept of like quality engineering is now really into play, and so we're expected now to do a lot of things, whereas I think before with the traditional life cycle, and applications are still very like monolithic and simple. It's I'm not saying it's simple before, but definitely now the scope of what we test, how we test, the people that we speak to, it's just grown massively because I think while we also have to test the products that we're testing, I think there's this um expectation, like implicit expectation, that we also have to educate the rest of our team. We also have to show them like recommended practices. We have to be really, I guess, like flexible when it comes to requirements. We have to find risks as earlier on, and it could be quite daunting, especially if you're starting out in your career journey.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure if it's um, something that happens early in your career or maybe later, but at some point, I think you'll find an area where you prefer to focus on. Like you mentioned, maybe it's in performance, and that's where you will drill down and get your expertise. So at some point, there are still parts within testing that you will probably want to focus on and become more of an expert in. And if you have a mature organization that understands that testing is not something that can be done by one person, that you need different types of skill sets and different type of interests and focus, they will get more people so that you can compensate for different knowledge gaps that are not there in place, or but I find that difficult to get many organizations to understand that a tester is not just like one person that can do everything. It's
Mm.
just like with developers, there are different skills, different languages, different tools, different areas, and somehow it seems, I'm not sure why, but it seems more common that you have, like you mentioned before, a developer working on a specific area, and that's fine. But a tester cannot be assigned to just one specific area. It's many times it's like one tester and maybe 8 developers in a
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. Or more than one teams. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. More than one team sometimes. And then it's basically impossible to even get any testing, I think, done.
Yeah. I don't know if we as an industry like created this, because I think like, I mean, not a lot of companies are saying it now, but I remember before where like people are saying that, oh, test automation is gonna like replace our jobs. Like we have to automate everything. And I think that that limiting belief of um test automation is gonna um do our job instead. I think even though it has its like benefits, of course, I feel that at the same time that's also maybe created this incorrect assumption from like business or from like other team members that, okay, we don't need as much testers, like we can hire, let's say, 8 developers and then let's just hire one tester. What do you think about that?
I'm not sure if that's why, but I do see what you mentioned, that in a lot of organizations, testing is almost equal to automation rather than that we're talking about like manual testing and then automation. And I think I can't remember who I was speaking to about this, but one thing is that everyone can test. So I mean, we got. I'm currently at Volvo Cars, and some people there have like co-dev cars, people who work there, so they can report problems that they find, and it's easy to find problems and report them, and in one way that's called testing. So that kind of indicates sort of that anyone can test, and it's easy because it's easy to find problems in software. Everyone finds different types of problems in software, and I think because most people can do a little bit of testing, it's also easy to think that that's all to it. And you don't see all that work that we were talking about before, all those different activities and knowledge work that goes into testing. And I think that's why it might be that people think you don't need a specific person for this type of testing or a specific person for this, and everything can be automated because it seems like it looks from the outside like it's not a lot of complicated work.
It really is about holding empathy for everybody that's involved, different types of users and different stakeholders within the company, and finding a way to hold a space for all of those things to be sometimes in conflict with each other, and trying to find your way through that tension without just saying like, no, you're wrong, we don't care about you, like still accepting that and balancing competing priorities, I feel like that's something that is very that's part of a tester's job. And so that initial jump, like you said, of just finding any issue, that's like that's almost misleading, right? Because it is easy. Anyone can find any issue, but can you help a team to develop practices that find at least all of the main issues? How do you structure the development process, or how do you educate the team enough so that it's not just about finding individual issues, it's about finding all of the huge ones and some of the ones that you didn't even consider during design. It's about how do you raise issues within a team without making it seem like, hey, there's something wrong with your code, like you did something wrong. How do you express dissent in a way that's still constructive? Like that's really the hard part of testing. It's not about finding the individual issues. It's creating a system to find those issues, creating a team that's predisposed to identify and fix those issues. Like it's so much more than that individual thing. And I guess that it's because, like with development, that initial barrier writing code is a lot more difficult to get into. People are like, "Oh, okay, well, clearly, I can't do that." But I actually feel like it's a once you get past that hurdle, it's less of like a slope for learning than testing is, because with testing you just have to context switch so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as
So,
well, like so I was reading this one article from Jeff Nyman, and he spoke about the specialist tester as a role, because like the both of you have said, anyone can test, but then providing like the structure, providing like, you know, the really specific like recommendations and all. Like if we just take accessibility testing, for example, that whole testing field there is so massive. I've done a bit of accessibility testing myself, but I still don't consider myself as an expert because there's just so much to learn. And it's good that you share with your team, like, oh, we should look out for color contrast. We should look out for if the page isn't keyboard friendly. But there's still a lot of like small things that we could miss because of the bias that we have. And I think if you specialize in a specific testing type, like Nicole did with performance, or with, you know, me with accessibility, like I had a time where I really like learned a lot about it. I think that's the part that takes time, and that's the part where you really have to explain to your team that accessibility testing isn't just about integrating accessibility automated tests. Performance testing isn't really just about, oh, let me spin up 20 virtual users that can generate, you know, this amount of like requests per second. It is more than that. And I think maybe that's, you know, part of the reason why, you know, we're in this situation, because we're not really putting a lot of emphasis to how difficult software testing can be. Because I think there's this limiting belief as well that testing skills are inferior, and we've heard from people saying, I'm not technical enough, I need to do more automated testing just so I can prove to everyone that I'm technical. So I think that's also one part where we need to just stop defining what is technical and what is non-technical.
Yeah, I agree. I really agree to that. I mean, I often see people ask for technical testers, but when they say technical testers, they mean someone who can program.
Yeah.
And I really don't see the need for that. I see, however, a need that you understand programming, you understand the limitations and the possibilities. the challenges that might be there. You perhaps need a bit of understanding, but in the end, it's all about the thought process. So, I mean, you could pair with a developer without knowing how to code, because in a way, it's the thought process that the developer has that's been translated somewhere into code. And if you can challenge that, ask questions about that thought process of what is it that you develop, how did you do it, what happens if, what happens if you do this, what happens if you do that, have you thought about accessibility, have you thought of a very specific thing of around accessibility and so on, and all that sort of translates in the end to the code. And I think that testers can really help in that thought process by, I don't like saying beating the rubber duck, because a rubber duck is not intelligent, because you do emphasize, or you add the intelligence and your expertise by asking questions back, which the rubber duck doesn't. But I see a lot of value in that. And for that, you don't need to program. However, I guess in some cases it will help you. It really depends on the context that you're in, I would say. But yeah.
Yeah. I think the programming skill, I think like you said, that will definitely help. But it's like that's just not equivalent to the whole testing as a skill. There's a lot of other technical skills that people might not count as technical, that I think we still need to learn. Like, for example, using other tools, like if we're gonna use Charles Proxy as an example. So there's a lot of other skills that I think the automation and the programming, that's probably the most visible one, that when we write job descriptions or something, then that's like the first thing that people add as a, you need to program as a technical, requirement. But I agree, there needs to like I think there just needs to be a stop on um treating your work as non-technical, because what is even technical? Because I think we all have different definitions of what technical is and what technical isn't.
I definitely agree. I was thinking of something I wanted to mention around testing and things that people don't think about. And I was thinking about test techniques. I mean, even if you do testing as anyone who can test or a developer, there are so many things with, except from types of testing or specified like areas like performance, accessibility, but there is also different type of test techniques that you can become really good at, or that you need to use to provide more variety in your testing.
Yeah.
And getting to understand those and getting good to apply, or getting able to apply that knowledge as a skill takes time and practice. And I mean, that's not something that anyone has the time to do unless you are given that time within your specific role. Or so I think that's a different thing that people don't know or understand, that there are techniques that you can use and that you can get good at, unless they have, I guess, read about it or tried it out and so on.
Yeah.
I also think that the whole "I'm not technical enough" thing, I think that it's really misleading because it presents the question as a boolean. It's like true or false. Are you technical or aren't you? And it's really not like that. There are always levels. The OSI model of the seven different layers of computing. I think that you can say that, oh, being technical means being able to develop an entire program in whatever language from scratch. And it's like, okay, But what about the network layer? So maybe you're not technical enough because you don't know about what's happening on the protocol level. Or what about machine code? Do you know how compilers work? And it's like, well, you're not technical enough because you don't know that stuff. You don't know what it was like to be programming with like little bits of cards that were just cutting out holes, but that's what machine code is like. So there's like you can go as deep as you want, and things like eBPF. Wait, now we're programming on the kernel. It's like, well, clearly you're not technical enough for that. Well, no, it's not that you're not technical enough. You're just not skilled maybe in that way, or you don't have the knowledge for that particular area. But
Mm.
it's no better or worse than testing or building a web app. It is a different skill. And it's almost like, I think the problem with talking about whether or not someone is technical enough is it's putting everyone on the same scale when they're completely different fields entirely. It's like almost removing all of the differences and saying you are all going to be judged by the same metric. Yes or no? True or false, technical or not technical. And that's just diminishing the differences.
Yeah, totally agree. I think I saw this one LinkedIn post from Karen Todd this week. And I think she's started this by saying I am a woman of science, and then just like repeating that again and again, because I think, yeah, like we work in, like a very like STEM related subject. So we should be called women of science, because or whatever like term that we want to call. But I think the whole point is we can't just really have that one definition of being technical, as to what that is, because there could be different explanations out there from other people. So maybe something that we can tell people whenever they say I'm not technical is, but what's what does that mean? Like,
Yeah,
when you
I
say you're
think
not technical, yeah.
I never say that I'm not technical. I always present what I'm good at. Um,
You're framing it, yeah.
and I mean, if someone asks me, I don't think I have gotten that question for a very long time. Are you technical? I got some question once by a developer trying to understand where I came from and how much
Mm,
I understood. So I think he tried to figure out if I was technical, like what are you? Are you a project manager? Or I was like, no, but yeah. So I just said I've been a developer, and then that was fine. So, but it's interesting if you don't have. I think that was the same talk, Tanya's talk about being technical and how that kind of, or as soon as you don't have the engineering part in your title or
yeah,
role anymore, people assume that you don't
yeah.
understand or that you're not technical. So yeah, I think most people understand why when you get into the conversation that yeah, that person understands what this is about, or based on the questions that you ask and so on.
So you mentioned that you took a break from software testing, and you've decided to come back to it. What, I guess, different approach did you try this time? And because you were saying before that you were off balance, are you like much better now, I guess, in terms of preserving that balance? Are you trying different approaches, or?
So yeah, I mean one of it was that I work only, or I try to work 80%. So that's something I go into an assignment with, saying that yeah, I'm available for not full time, but it's about 80%. It goes up and down, but it's still something that I keep strongly back in my head. Like course, I'm a bit flexible, but I also have it there. Okay, am I still at 80% or am I, slowly increasing that 80%? So that's one of my reminders that I have. I'm also in that 20% that's left. Am I doing those things that, um, keeps me, gives me some rest, or things that I enjoy doing outside of work? So those are also reminders to me. Okay, am I getting my gym sessions? Am I going to the gym as many times as I want to do? Am I meeting my friends, or do I have time for my family, or whatever it is that I want to fill that time with? So that's also a reminder. And when I see that some of those things are disappearing, I know also that might be a bit of a warning that maybe it's time to go back to where I started. But it can also be signs at work. And I think if you see yourself complaining more than like or I guess I think if you're complaining more than enjoying what you're doing, that's a very big sign that you need to listen to and take action on.
That's very important. Yeah.
I
Um,
think it is.
yeah, it reminded me as well. So I have a coach at the moment, and one of the things that I've said to her was I I used to do a lot of like very strict rules in terms of like personal development, work development, and then past, um past couple of months, I just had to pause, and she made me realize that okay, even if you're not doing the personal development that you were doing like as part of, this area, look at the other side of the growth that you've accomplished. So I think it's really about just reframing it. And um I think another like one example that you said was around the 80% of your time, and instead of giving 100%, I made a mistake last last quarter where I've taken on a lot of work rather than just, I guess, what's expected of me. So I've always kept that now as a reminder that okay, when I'm crafting my objectives for this quarter and then for the next quarter, um, I just have to make sure that do I have capacity for everything? Because it's easy to just want to be involved, I guess, in a lot of things because it's in our nature to, I guess, we don't want to that fear of missing out, for example. So I think it's just this constant reminder and like constantly reminding yourself that there could also be external, factors. There's more to life than just doing work. There's the family, friends, and all the other aspects. So everything needs to be balanced. And that's the part that my coach has also said to me. It's like you need to make sure that you're not overexerting yourself, and you're just doing things that you can handle with your current like situation. So it just reminded me of that.
Yeah, I think that's a big lesson learned from me, or for me, and which is why I take on very little like outside engagement nowadays. I used to say yes to everything,
Yeah.
and even when I knew that uh, or at least I thought I had some spare time, I would say yes to a lot of things. And then suddenly, everything just piles up on each other. And I was like, why did I say yes to this? I should have said no. But yeah, it was difficult, but that's some huge lessons learned, that there are other things that I have to sacrifice while saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
So
I think Nicole and I are guilty of doing that too.
I think it's also important to keep in mind that saying yes to something, like a wholehearted yes, means also saying no to other things.
Exactly.
And I think that we're asked this, we're exposed to so many things as testers, and that's the problem. Because we want to say yes to everything, but the question is not, are you interested? Because
Mm,
then the answer might be yes. The question is, can you actually say no to other things to pursue this? And when you think of it that way, then no, you have to say yes to far fewer things. There just isn't enough time. And I think once we accept that we're not going to be able to understand everything there is in tech, nobody else has to, like it just there's this idea that because we're a breadth practice, that we should know something about everything. But even that is like completely unreasonable. Engineers aren't expected to do, like, developers aren't expected to do that. And once we accept that, then I think it gets a little bit easier, because then maybe it is okay to specialize and to say there's just a bunch of things you're just never going to know.
yeah. Paul Maxwell Walters also added this comment that yes, sometimes we say yes to everything just not to let other people down. Guilty of that too. And also, it is easier to say no later in our careers when we are more senior and can push back. Yeah, I think so. Because maybe, yeah, if you're just starting out, like, you sometimes have this need of, oh, I'm still junior, I still have a lot to learn. So if I start saying no, then I might come across as someone who's not willing to learn, or someone who's, I guess, picky, or like something else. So I think I do agree that it is much more harder to say no when we are more senior in our careers. But I don't know if there's any like advice with, like, if there's someone who's starting like as a junior developer, junior tester, who's experiencing the same thing. Are there advices that you can provide, or tips, just to, I guess, also remind them that, yeah, it's okay to say no.
I think it's great to have a mentor that's a bit
Mm.
more experienced within the field, not only within the profession as a tester, but perhaps in tech in general.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess on the other hand, that person has probably needed to make that, I like learned that lesson herself. Um, but I think there are different ways to say no that makes it easier. So you don't have to specifically say no, I'm not going to do that, because that might come across a bit aggressive. So if you can find different ways and also explaining why, I might, or you could say that, just like you said, Nicole, there will be other things that can't be done if I do this. So by explaining, you can choose between this and this. I would love to do it, but then I might not be able to do this. So in that way, you're saying no, but you're also visualizing what is it that you know won't be done if I or now I got lost in my in my thought process, but you get it if you explain at least a bit more of why you might say no. I think that would be helpful.
I think in improv, it's always about yes and
Exactly.
maybe what we should do is no, but, because if someone asks you if you want to do something, or if you can do something, then you can say no, but here's what I'm saying yes to. This
Yes.
is what I'm prioritizing right now. And it is really helpful to have like a yes list. Things that you have strategically identified are things that you want to focus on. And that way it doesn't feel like just no, I don't care about you. I don't care about this request. It's like, no, I can't because this is why, these are the reasons. And so it feels like it's more thoughtful, because it is more intentional, and you're adequately communicating. It's not that this isn't important. It's
Mm.
that I have made choices to focus on other things.
And I think it's good to do that, visualize those choices, because sometimes you might need some more input to make the correct choice. Someone might say, but hey, this is actually more important than this one. So you can get some more input into that thought process as well. And I think that's a dialogue that we generally should have with when we're testing with people who matters. It could be product owners or other stakeholders, so that we also prioritize the things that are the most important if we don't have that information ourselves.
We are almost out of time. I can't believe it's gone that quick. But the last question that we would like to ask you, Maria, is if there's one piece of advice that you would like to give to anyone who wants to start a career in tech, a career in testing, what would that be?
Wow. Like one thing, I think I'd go back to the mentor or
Yeah.
coach part, because I know it's hard sometimes to ask for help, but it's very, very helpful to get that support from someone who's experienced within the industry and the profession itself. And I know that there are lots of people that are willing to be someone's mentor. Um, so that's something I would probably have done if I started all over again, getting a mentor from start, I guess.
Yeah, I think like that's a definitely great advice because even though you're not just starting out, even though you're much later in your career, I think we can all still benefit from having a mentor and a coach because we're gonna be learning, a lot of other things. We're gonna be trying to move to a different career paths as we grow as well. So that's that's a really like vital part of growing, just having that someone that can help you in terms of support. Paul kind of wished that he had a mentor as well. I wish I had a mentor as well when I was starting out, so I would have given that advice as well to my younger self. But this is it. We've now reached the end of this live stream. Thank you so much, Maria, for being with us today. I enjoyed the conversations, and hopefully, to everyone who's gonna watch this, to everyone who watch like this with us, like during the live stream, thank you for tuning in. But yeah, we'll be back next week with another episode. But for now, yep, we're gonna say goodbye, and I hope whatever we shared to you was all useful. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
coming on
much.
and joining us, Maria. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.